Welcome to the 2024 college baseball season recap. We'll be going through the championship series of the College World Series, just talking about a little bit of that as well as surrounding news that's been going on with one of the teams that may have been involved in the final games. Also going through our overall prediction results that we've been compiling throughout the season, as well as adding in our preseason predictions to that. So first off, big congratulations to the number one overall seed, Tennessee, finally breaking the curse of the number one overall seed, which is the first time that a number one overall seeded team has won the tournament since the seeding was first implemented in this structure. So pretty impressive. It was the first team ever that got it done, Florida, and now we're getting it again with Tennessee. Tennessee team has just looked pretty much the most consistent the entire year, and finally got the job done a few years after they just came up short in Super Regional. So super impressive there. We have a lot to talk about, but we'll jump into our predictions before we dive too deep into that final series.
Yeah, I mean, first number one seed to lose to a four seed in the tourney, so the double feat, one of the worst losses by a number one overall seed, and then first time in a long time that the number one overall seed has won it. But like you said, just one of the most consistent teams in the country throughout the second half of the season, really through most of the year. Only had one very bad series against Alabama necessarily. That was the only time they lost back-to-back games, and so very consistent throughout the entire year and very deserving with the way this program has been headed the last couple of years.
Yeah, we also put together our rankings after the season, so we'll put that up on screen now. Just run through obviously Tennessee number one, Texas A&M number two, and most of the super regional teams, or eight for Omaha up next, and then super regionals as well as like regional hosts. Primarily the order that we went into to put these rankings out, but don't need to dive too deep into that. Instead, we'll go over our our prediction results going into the championship series. I was 10 points ahead of Kevin, 59 to 49. So did he have enough preseason prediction points that came through to fill the gap? We'll see. But starting with our championship, we both chose Tennessee to win the whole thing. That came true. So +1 there. Neither of us got the most outstanding player award with Burke and Christian Moore as our choices, but it was actually Dylan Dreiling who had an insanely good College World Series, as well as just finishing things off in the finals. Super impressive there. There were a lot of players that were up for contention. Nobody that just kind of took it by storm, but Dylan Dreiling definitely deserving of that award.
Yeah, I feel like there was a few people going into that last game that could have taken it. Christian Moore, Blake Burke included. I think those were kind of the two headliners, but Dreiling just had a very good time in Omaha overall and continued to play extremely well in that series as well. And so it was very deserving and kind of cool to see, not one of your top guys take it in that moment.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see the results fall that way. But so there, we both gained 1 point in that column, as well as I gained another one since the previous week. I also predicted Tennessee to win the championship once the 8 for Omaha was finally set. You chose NC State. Unfortunately, didn't pan out pretty quickly for them, but obviously we also both chose them to be in the finals. So neither of us getting a point from that scenario, but looking at our postseason predictions prior to the postseason actually starting, I also went Tennessee to take the whole thing, and you stuck with NC State there. So I'll be adding another tally there, just buffering the lead a little bit more. So adding 2 to that, now I'm up 12 overall. So do you have 3 correct preseason predictions to take the lead? We can run through. Biggest surprise: you chose NC State, I chose UCLA. Obviously, a terrible prediction on my part, and pretty decent one by you. NC State making Omaha, so we'll give you those 5 points there. Pretty good stuff, but it just gets reversed in the biggest bust since I chose Vanderbilt and you chose North Carolina. Pretty much opposite scenarios. Vanderbilt, even though they made the tournament, were not the team that many people expected preseason, and North Carolina definitely filled the role of a very, very good squad down the stretch.
Yeah, bit of a tough one there for North Carolina. I didn't think they were going to put it together the way they did, but they were a fun team to watch this year. Super impressive. I think there was just a lot of very complete teams in the ACC that really panned out with the question marks going into the season, and NC State was kind of one of those. But I put my bets on that one, and very happy with how their season went. Won all those top series against the top ACC teams and made it all the way to Omaha. So success in my books there.
Yeah, I can't be too upset there, but unfortunately, both of us got the preseason prediction for national champion wrong, with mine being Wake Forest and you sticking with NC State throughout the entire season, even through the ups and downs there. So didn't get those 5 points for either of us. We can jump to now Player of the Year. I chose Jack Caglione. You went JJ Weatherholt. Injury derailed things instantly for your scenario. Jack Caglione maybe had a shot if the team played better, but just didn't pan out. Obviously, down the stretch that did, but for most of the season, there was definitely the expectation that Florida would be a better team. Even though Jack Caglione was putting up pretty decent stats across the board, pitching still was very up and down, but hitting was always going to be special from him. So neither of us got it. Jack Caglione probably a little bit closer in that sense, even though none of them were up for the Golden Spikes Award finalists at least.
Yeah, I mean, Jack was definitely, I think, in my opinion, the fourth guy on the board there. Not one of the finalists, but he was right there. And kind of crazy for him to end his college career not having gotten it with the numbers he's put up. Super impressive career, but I mean, there was just no way anybody was winning it besides Condon this year. Can't take that away from him, even though Jack's had a super impressive career. And as far as Weatherholt, just unfortunate to have the injury derail the season. He had a good back half to the year. Not quite on the par as he was last year, but I think he will get back to that form as he enters pro ball.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to be more cautious with him when he came back in, so his stolen base numbers were very below what you might expect, but that's just the coaching staff not wanting to risk him just ruining his potential future in the major leagues there. So didn't have the stats that you would expect from him, but not too much of a worry for a player like that. But then our last preseason prediction was Pitcher of the Year, and Brody Breck did not really pan out to be that guy. That's the pitcher that I chose. I mean, coming in, it was kind of a shot in the dark. There was that expectation that he might still be a little wild, but his strikeout numbers were always going to be one of the top in the nation. But we'll give you the 5 points there. Obviously, Hagen Smith, the most dominant pitcher this year, even though his first start and his last start of the year were not the best. Probably his worst two starts of the entire year by far. But got it done pretty much every other game, consistently putting up amazing numbers. Just those first and last games were just the terrible bookends to the season that he had, which was super, super impressive overall.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat that he gave up either the same amount or just one off earned runs throughout the entire year compared to his first and last starts. So the time in between was spectacular, but first and last starts were rough. But I mean, just an incredible year overall. Paul Skeens had one of the most impressive seasons of all time last year, and Hagen Smith's numbers were awfully close this year. So just super impressive to honestly come even close to what Skeens did last year.
Yeah, it's just an insane pitcher. I mean, when you're in the SEC and putting up numbers like that week in, week out, you're going to be one of the top players drafted coming up. And you never know. He could be that number one overall player, even though people aren't really expecting it. If I think that the Guardians have the first overall pick. If they're making a postseason run, they might just want to take Hagen Smith to be able to potentially bring him up immediately if they want an additional pitcher in their rotation or just a reliever down the stretch that they know they can trust and has that capability of coming straight in and being a pretty decent arm.
Yeah, definitely possible for someone to reach a little higher for him. He's got the talent. There's some extremely talented position players this year as well, but like you said, pitchers kind of make that impact faster or able to fly through the ranks a bit, and so definitely possible there.
Yeah. Now, overall, our point tally. going in, I was up 10, and you made up some ground definitely with those preseason predictions there. But was it enough? That's the question. People are asking. The fans are wondering. Was it enough? So overall, you were at 60 points to end the season, and I ended on 67. So close, but just not enough. I think essentially the me racking up enough points with Tennessee definitely helped getting those just additional points to separate things. And you had a lot riding on NC State. If NC State wins it, I think you pretty easily clear it. You had a lot riding on them there, but yeah, overall pretty competitive. We'll be keeping track in the future on similar things. We might add some more preseason predictions, make it more interesting, but. Yeah, that's that for our prediction results on the year.
Yeah, can't be too mad. Just had to stick with NC State. Can't shy away from them once they're in the moment. Got to back my boys and ride them the whole way there. And so, yeah, you can't be too ashamed. It was a close battle.
You're backing your boys while you're wearing another ACC team's hat on your head, so I don't know about that, but yeah, we'll get back into talking about the College World Series finals. Obviously, we mentioned Tennessee beating Texas A&M, super close series. I think there was only one run between the two, like 3 games combined, so all games were really close. Great to see. I know last year it was 1 close game and 2 absolute blowouts, so it's good to see that there was competitiveness in all 3 games, and either team could have won this thing. But there is a lot of controversy going on in college baseball space right now, especially surrounding Texas A&M. Just seems like the amazing season that they had, is overshadowed by the coaching staff right now. Schloss leaving to Texas is pretty big news, especially after he said he wasn't going to, essentially, in his press conference after the season, and for that to change, and now it seems like all the best players that Texas A&M had are in the portal, the ones that at least aren't going to be drafted this year. So we'll see what happens there, but there's definitely a lot up in the air for this Texas A&M program, and it's just unfortunate to see for a team that had an insanely good season, and for this to be just overshadowed by it is a little tough.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, like you said, it's just overshadowing the season that they had. You also just want to give the players a chance to, mourn their loss there of the final, just like have a day or two to just like be sad, but also just relish that they had a really good season and, just move on from that emotionally. But no chance with this pitching or with this coaching change. And it's one that's a bit confusing to me personally. I mean, I know at this point we know not to believe coaches in their post game press conferences when they're talking about other job offers. They're just never going to tell the truth. But it's an interesting move. Him going from TCU to Texas A&M makes sense. You go into the SEC, you're going to a bigger brand, a stadium that's getting renovated, more funding, and Texas A&M, we've seen it in football, have one of the biggest NIL budgets there is. I'm sure that carries over to baseball a little bit as well. Moving to Texas, to me, I understand that Texas is the more national brand, but it seems like more of a lateral move than a step up. I feel like Texas A&M and Texas are just on a similar level in baseball right now, and with the way he had Texas A&M playing and the way he had the program going, it could have been on the same level. I don't think it really makes that much of a difference.
Yeah, I think I want to say like there's definitely that possibility that Texas is offering more money. I don't think it should make that much of a difference from a coach like that, but you never know. I think another main reason was probably that he's super close with the athletic director at Texas. Yeah, I mean, the national brand of Texas is bigger. It's their first season that they'll be going into the SEC, so I imagine that rivalry is going to be very crazy between them and Texas A&M, especially when Texas heads on the road to A&M. The crowd is going to be very rowdy and ready to speak their mind a little bit, I want to say, especially if A&M is able to handle them. Texas, is a team that should be in the College World Series every single year, so want to get back to that. They've had a few iffy years. They have been able to get hot at the right times a lot of these years, but it seems like just overall, player pool has just been a bit down for Texas. So we'll see if that changes quickly. We'll see if the Texas A&M players that entered the portal follow the coaching staff to Texas. That would be interesting, to say the least. I don't know how the fans would react to that for A&M. Some might be fine with it, but I feel like a lot definitely hedges on the coaches. There is still, while this is being recorded, up in the air. Obviously, Texas A&M still hasn't announced their coaches yet. It sounds like they'll be doing that really soon, as quickly as possible. They have a huge budget, and they said that's not going to stop them as well. I mean, it was interesting that the one reason it seemed like that Schloss was going to stay at A&M was because that they were building a huge budget to renovate their stadium. It was like 80 odd million to update their stadium, which is just ridiculous. And that seemed like, since he's getting that, unless anything goes crazy where that falls through, he's going to stay at A&M. But obviously that did not hold him back at all. So we'll see if that budget continues for the next coaching staff. But it seems like we'll see. I mean, there's a lot up in the air for A&M. You want a coaching change where they're able to lock down the players that are potentially in the portal and potentially looking to leave. You want to get those players back as soon as possible, back on your team and on the right side of things, and not lose any time with other teams recruiting them in that sense. But those SEC teams are going to be chomping at the bit for some of those top Texas A&M players.
Yeah, a lot is riding on that coaching decision and how quickly it's made. Like you said, there's a good chance those players are heading towards Texas, but I mean, depending on the hire you make, they might want to stay at A&M. I mean, it's kind of a mix with the transfer portal. Sometimes people want to stay loyal to their coach and go with him wherever he goes, and sometimes they feel a little betrayed or misled. And both are understandable. You commit to a coach for a reason, but you also commit to the program too. And so, depending on how you feel about that, it's kind of the way you lean. Like you said, I'm really looking forward to Texas going on the road to Texas A&M. We've seen that Texas A&M fans don't hold back when it comes to speaking their mind. They're ripping into Kevin O'Sullivan in Omaha, just absolutely ripping into him. Not the most appropriate thing there, but they were going after it, and I'm sure there will be some similar intensity this upcoming season.
Yeah, definitely the case. We also saw, like, on social media, some of the Texas A&M players speaking their mind a little bit, not going too overboard, but like especially the players that are staying at A&M, saying that they value loyalty and above all else, and that was the main reason why they're staying, and kind of a swift jab to the coaching staff, since it seems like the whole staff is leaving for Texas, which is it's just a crazy time. The off season, which is like a day old now, surely hasn't disappointed, and we'll see if things continue that way. There's so many really good players in the portal. See where they land. But Texas has some rebuilding to do, and so does A&M. So should be very interesting. Just still disappointed on how things panned out. Texas announcing the day of the final winner go home championship game that they were parting ways with their former head coach, and so there was that noise already building up that is Texas A&M losing their whole coaching staff even before the game or the final game was played. So disappointing there. I feel like Texas handled it not in the best way, but still got the best result for them. Not having A&M win the championship game and getting the coaching staff and probably a few transfers along the way. So unfortunate, but somehow ended up just fully going Texas's way. But A&M fans will not let up easy for the future.
No, it's also not a good look because it's sounding like this Texas A&M, the whole coaching staff, obviously Schlossnagle is the main attraction there, but all the assistants are going as well. And it sounds like these negotiations were completed before the postseason even started. And so that's also just a tough look to, hear that was happening during the season. Before the postseason's even over. It makes you feel like the coaching staff wasn't fully committed to the end of that year. Obviously, they came extremely close, but it kind of just makes you wonder, were they fully invested or were they already, a little bit peeking at the next thing?
Yeah, there was also some rumors that the coaching staff was using burner phones to contact recruits to try to pull him over to Texas even before anything was announced there. So not 100% sure if that those rumors are true. I feel like more news would have broke earlier because if, I don't know, high school kids are hearing that there's a coaching staff change, I feel like some people might leak it at least and get some sort of news, and there really wasn't much out there. There was some speculation that Schloss was going to leave for Texas, but it was just a small rumor that didn't really catch anything until pretty much the last day, until it was announced. But yeah, I mean, bummer way to end the season, but we'll end on a high note. Congratulations to Tennessee. Just from the first game to the last game, looked like one of the best, if not the best team in the nation. They lost some great players and still were able to turn things out and be the best team. And yeah, they looked the part and got it done for this squad that now might be starting to put together somewhat of a dynasty here. They have the stats from 2020 onward. They are just by far the best team since then, and they'll continue probably to keep piling on those wins and those home runs, just like Vitello wants the team to do. And it's a scary proposition, especially because there is some hate always going to Tennessee, but it's good to have a villain. It's just tough when they're always going to be one of the top teams in the nation, and it seems like that's the case for the near future at least.
Yeah, definitely a dynasty in the making. Congrats to them on a great season and just overall a great season for college baseball. Felt like a extremely competitive year. It seemed like a lot of the year there was kind of a team that was separated at number one, but that separation never really panned out throughout a lot of the year. It seemed like throughout the year there was good clumps of teams. It didn't seem like the separation was necessarily that huge, and it was just a very competitive year. We saw that in the postseason. I feel like you can see that when there's 3 seeds winning instead of 2 seeds. The competition was just really, really competitive throughout the whole field.
Yeah, it was great to see. Definitely not one team, even though we mentioned Tennessee being like the most consistent. They were hovering around the top 5 for a lot of the year, but they were not just locking down that number 1 spot. It definitely flip-flopped a decent amount. So yeah, a lot of competition, but it does seem like the SEC might just continue to keep running away with this thing, especially as NIL becomes more and more lucrative. But the teams that know how to use it the best are the ones that get up at the top, and Tennessee just continues to show that good players want to play there no matter what. I mean, NIL helps with that, but there's a reason that they continue to perform year in, year out, just no matter what's going on with the team. But yeah, appreciate everybody sticking around for the podcast, and we'll see you next time, whenever that is. Peace.